because it permits for closed captioning for folks who might need this. So over time, we're probably going to shift more meetings to this, but that's the reason for the shift to Teams from Zoom. Again, the purpose is to advise the agency and board on matters related to educator preparation programs in Texas. Just a few meeting norms, as I mentioned earlier. If you would mute your microphone, that's in the upper right-hand screen of your screen in Teams. To the extent that folks who are not EPAC members have joined us today, just ask that you reserve participation and camera use for our EPAC members, and definitely would encourage non-members to reach out to TEA staff directly for any questions or input you might have. So I want to stop right there and see if there are any other logistics questions about using Teams or anything we can provide on before we launch into the content of the meeting. So I would say if you have anything, feel free to raise your hand or unmute and raise that. All right, I gave 6 seconds of wait time. That seems pretty good for virtual. So first, I want to start with TEA organizational updates and just speak to this a little bit. We did share an email out with EPAC a couple of weeks ago about some of the organizational changes, but just wanted to give a little space here for that discussion. First, what has been the Educator Leadership and Quality Shop is undergoing a name change and will be Educator Preparation, Certification, and Enforcement moving forward. So wanted to let y'all know about that. This is, as TEA has built out its instructional leadership work in other areas, this is something that didn't just live in one shop, and this is to better reflect the content. But the folks and the work of the department won't change, and this doesn't reflect any sort of change in mission or anything for this core group of folks. My last day at the Texas Education Agency will be Monday of next week, and the Associate Commissioner position is currently posted, and I know folks have been recruiting, so if you know anyone who might be interested, definitely encourage them to apply for the position. Marilyn Cook, I am pleased to say, has agreed to serve as the interim Associate Commissioner, and that is the best of news for the team, and really fortunate to have somebody of Marilyn's experience, knowledge, character, integrity, everything, serve in that role to lead the team in the interim until the position is filled. Mark and his team, including the Ed Prep team, will report to Deputy Commissioner Oser in the interim just to manage workload, but this group is going to continue working closely together and collaborating and communicating with all of you just as they have. So those are kind of the highlights. Kind of have just so you can. The big takeaway here is this is not going to have any impact on your daily business or communication with us. Your program specialist will stay the same, and the work will continue. So should not have any impact on your daily operations or business. Here's sort of the graphic layout just so you can see. I've highlighted in orange there Mark and Tam because they will be that strand will be reporting up to Kelvy in the meantime, and then but all the others will report up to Marilyn on an interim basis as that role is filled. So I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you to all of you who've contributed so much during my time here. I've been in the role a little over 6.5 years and feel very fortunate to have been able to be in this space and work so closely with so many of you, both in this setting and outside this setting in individual emails or calls or smaller group meetings through the years, and just really grateful for the feedback, direction, and support you have provided all of us. So definitely thank you all for that. And I will pause there to see if there are any questions regarding the organizational changes. All right, pass it over to Mark.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan. And I mean, I've gotten to be on so many calls now with Ryan where he's announcing it's sort of like leaving, and so it's like I feel like I've already said a bunch of my stuff, but like certainly I know that I don't just speak for myself, that will greatly miss you, but super excited for you in moving forward with your next piece, yeah. Feel free to stop by anytime. This is, Public Meetings Act allows you to be present here, so don't feel like you need to make yourself a stranger. And thanks again on that. As Ryan noted, a little bit of a shorter agenda, just closing out a few things, and also with a shorter ASPEC agenda. So stuff for us to talk about today. The certification test development update and those candidates in HB3 impacted fields. And then wanted to engage in a little bit of a discussion around ASEP and accreditation statuses. And then we do have just a few other items on the ASPEC agenda that we just wanted to provide a brief overview of. Then if we've got any other topics, questions that come up. So we would go ahead and start then with the certification test development update. First, I wanted to give a big thank you to really the EdPrep community here for all of your dedication, supporting your candidates who were in fields that, following December 31st, the STR was required. A lot of folks who were eligible for certificates got certified. In fact, over 4,000 standard certificates in these impacted fields were issued in December. That's actually October through December, and that's more than triple the number in the same time period of, as you can see on the right, of the prior year. So big thank you to all of those communications, all of those efforts to get people, to call them, email them, find them, and help them get through and get their certificates that they were eligible for. Really kind of pushing through on that. Really appreciated the good, partnership and collaboration with y'all on that as we were able to get good outcomes for a lot of candidates. With that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Jessica for talking through the rest of this piece.
Thanks, Mark. I also just want to share my gratitude for the educator preparation community, as we've all worked in concert to support candidates in getting to the finish line of their standard cert by the end of December, and then also working really to support candidates as we move forward into the new frontier of our world of HB3 implementation and the STR exam requirement. And so recognizing the last time we all met together, we were talking about our final push, and we posed the question to you all, how is it going as we think about those last days towards STR exam launch? We wanted to pose that same question again now. Now that the HB3 requirement is officially active, the STR exam is in operation, we recognize that we've received a number of inquiries from candidates who are seeking clarification on what the impact of this requirement means for them. So just wanted to put out that question to you all. How are things going as we look towards the end of our first month of STR exam implementation?
Jessica, it's Donna at Tech. I think it's been going fine. We're anxious to get our first set of results back so we can see if what we have put into place is effective. Our students have responded well and said they felt like that they were well prepared, but as far as getting students registered and moving forward, it seems to be going fine.
Thanks, Donna. I appreciate that. Absolutely. I think we're all excited to see the first rounds of data that come in across the state.
I also wanted to share that in going through this transition, I think that you all did a great job of getting ahead of it. And I think that this is something that we can definitely learn from and continue to do anytime there's a change in test, because we were very successful as a result of that. And just, the reinforcement supports that you gave well in advance really helped. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. I really appreciate that feedback. I think you may be reading my mind in terms of the next slides, where I'm actually going to pose that exact question. What are some of the lessons that we can kind of collectively, that we have collectively learned and can codify moving forward? And Dr. Dykes, I appreciate you concurring with Dr. Brasher related to her feedback. Any other thoughts or reflections on how things are going, things that we should be collectively keeping in mind as we move through these next few months of initial implementation? Leveraging Ryan's wait time as he shared, but just want to name that if there are any concerns, questions that arise, please feel free to reach out to the team. We want to continue to work in partnership to support candidates throughout this transition period. We did want to just name that we also really wanted to express our gratitude for the extensive feedback that you all provided to us throughout the past 18, 19 months as we've worked to implement this STR exam requirement. A number of the specific questions, pieces of feedback that you've shared have really informed the approach that we've taken to communication, the communication we've shared directly with candidates, and then our ongoing two-way communication with you all as our EPP partners. So in sort of the rollout of the STR exam and the impact on our HB3 impacted certs, we did send pretty extensive amounts of direct emails to candidates impacted by the HB3 requirement. We stood up our STR webpage where we tried to gather all the excellent feedback that you all shared and codify it in FAQ documents and one-pagers, and then really tried to leverage both our newsletter as that opportunity for short cycle next steps related to STR exam implementation, and then really tried to seek to provide data that we had at our disposal to ensure that communication with candidates was streamlined across all of our entities. So just wanted to, again, say thank you for your feedback and contributions to this communication. And we hope that it really helped potentially lead to some of those large numbers of standard certificate issuance that we saw in October through December of this year.
Is there a way you could adjust the presenter screen to where we're not seeing just the title?
Oh, I see a little bit.
Dr. Seld, are you able to see the full slide, or you're just only seeing now the title of the slide itself?
All we're seeing is the title of the slide and communications with EPPs.
I see all of the screen.
Okay.
I see all of it.
It may, sometimes in using Teams, sometimes the screen can be a little bit delayed. And so it might be an opportunity to sometimes hop out of the meeting and hop back in. I think sometimes with Teams, it needs a little turn it off, turn it on type of function. But please let us know if it continues to be a technology issue. We'll also, as we traditionally do, we'll share out this deck after the meeting. So you'll certainly have that at your disposal as well.
Jessica, good morning. This is Veronica.
Good morning.
I want to thank all of you because I think this was probably the best effort on both sides. Thank you for the training with letters and the opportunities with Reading Academy. That was a great support for all programs and universities as well. And thank you, because it's one thing to hear it from the program and the university. It's a different thing when the email is coming from TEA. It adds validity. It's not we're saying it. It's code, and this is what we're complying with. So that adds a robustness to our accountability with our students. So thank you very much. You all are to be commended. It was a wonderful effort. Now the ball is in our court to take all those resources and to show that Texas can indeed bring up their reading scores.
Thank you, Dr. Gavan. Really appreciate that feedback, and certainly echo that this has been a team effort. I see that Dr. Brasher has her hand raised as well.
Agree with Veronica, but I wanted to add, we've had governance meetings with several districts recently, and they still have lots of questions about whether these graduates will have to participate in reading academies. So communication's been great with us, but I'm wondering if maybe more needs to be rolled out to districts and communicating with them about how students that are certified with STR affects reading academies.
Thank you for that feedback, Dr. Brasher. I think that that's certainly been a pretty consistent question that we've received both from directly from candidates, from districts, and from preparation programs. In terms of the requirements, so I think that we all on this call know that they are separate requirements, and candidates will be required to take and pass the STR exam for issuance of their certificate, and then will also be required to take reading academies once they're hired by a Texas LEA. One thing to note in this transition year that I think has led to some additional confusion that potentially that won't be an issue moving forward is that we have a number of candidates right now who began serving in an internship and are a teacher of record in a Texas LEA who had not yet been required to take the STR exam because of the STR implementation as of January 1st. And so we have sort of a 1-year unique period in which we have candidates who are preparing to take the STR exam at the same time that they are being required to participate in reading academies. Moving forward, candidates would be required to take and pass the STR exam prior to the issuance of their intern certificate. So they would be timeline stacked in terms of take the STR exam, get issued your certificate, and then take reading academies going forward. But I think that that's communication that we still need to refine out to the field. I didn't know if there was I thought I heard an additional question potentially. Just want to pause to make sure there's any additional need to clarify. I will, as a follow-up, also share on. Oh, I think it's just feedback on my end. I will also share that we have a one-pager for LEAs that specifically clarifies some of these questions related to the reading academies. So when it's no longer my turn to facilitate, I will go and pull that direct link for you all and put it in the chat, but it can also be accessed via that STR exam webpage. Might be a good resource as district colleagues pose those questions, a good kind of like quick resource to share with them as well. Thanks, Mark. We can click through so the questions are on the screen. Fantastic. So I appreciate that you all are clearly thinking along the same lines as what are those lessons learned that we can codify? What are some next steps and resources that might still be helpful to the field? And so really just wanted to pause when we all sort of like take the breath after the sprint that we've engaged in over the past year with STR implementation. Would love to just gather any feedback and reflections from the group at large around among the resources that we've provided, what was particularly helpful as you worked to provide communication to your candidates, to your district partners, and then if there's any lessons that we can kind of collectively capture to the points made earlier as we think about future exam transitions that may happen down the road. So just wanted to open those to the group to see if there were any reflections. And Ryan, I appreciate you for putting that link in the chat.
Hey, Jessica, it's Zach. In terms of future lessons, and I take as much ownership as this as any because we had an opportunity to read through the bills. I think the more that we can have transitions done not in the middle of the school year, the better. And like I said, we could have spoken to this during the legislative session, but this Jan 1 timeline, it's tough. You know, making an August or a September 1, I think just moving forward with the school years, I mean, I've learned a lot just to be more cognizant of the dates of implementations, so.
Zach, appreciate that feedback. I think that, you know, where there are exam requirements that are statutorily required, I think that those are certainly things that, you know, will be taken into consideration. I think we have also will continue to take into consideration as we engage in kind of the redesign of our content pedagogy exams, also keep that in mind around when we're implementing new exams in terms of the academic calendar. Because certainly this mid-year transition did add additional challenges for folks, certainly. Other reflections around lessons learned or resources that were particularly helpful? Dr. Gavan.
In particular, that last webinar for STR, Jessica, Gio, you all did a phenomenal job of making information very clear. It was obvious that was a lot of preparation. So I think that having the knowledge base that we learned in Letters and Reading Academy, and then going through it with you in a deep dive has helped tremendously. It's been a great guidance because one was more theoretical and yours was more the practical of what is the expectation and how we can possibly help our students. But the webinars have been extremely helpful. Thank you very much. I think the challenge will be that we'll look back at this, and this did occur during a pandemic. So in the end, we're all standing and we made it through, but I don't think that we can ever predict when a pandemic is going to hit. So we just do our best. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gavan, and I appreciate that feedback around our STR webinars. I know I have Guillemar Andahar and Melissa Yoder on the meeting today who planned those fantastic webinars, and so just want to express my gratitude on their behalf for that feedback. And then certainly I think that there's always the extra pat on the back that can be shared collectively as we think about engaging in this scale of transition in the middle of a pandemic. And so I think it just continues to underscore the power of the collaboration and the need for the consistent communication. Fantastic. Well, as folks continue to reflect and consider additional pieces of feedback, please reach out to us and share any other considerations that come to mind. I've certainly taken note around need for additional clarification around the Reading Academy's requirement, the power of TEA directly contacting candidates where reasonable, considerations around transitions in the middle of the year, and then continuing to offer resources and supports such as those STR webinars that we provided. As we think about exam launches moving forward, we just want to recognize that we had pretty significant of January in terms of certification exam launches. We had the launch of the updated core subjects EC6 391 and the 293 STR exam on January 1st. And then just earlier this week, the launch of the 292 early childhood and the 253 educational and diagnostician exams. And then one update on future exam launches that's included in our item to the board, so our certification exam development update item, will include an announcement that our 331 ELAR 712 updated exam is set to launch in September of 2023. As we look to move forward collectively, we know that supports related to an exam launch don't end the day that the exam launches itself. And so as part of our presentation to the board, we'll be reinforcing the fact that there's kind of a continuation of resources and supports throughout the exam launch. So recognizing that phase one was really about getting ready to launch the STR exam. We're now in this phase two, which we're calling that introductory period, considering the impact of COVID-19 and this period in which we're implementing that minimal cut score in order for candidates to pass the STR exam. And during this time, we will continue to monitor exam performance trends, provide resources and supports similar to those webinars that we facilitated just earlier this month. And then as we engage in 5-year continuing reviews, a focus on STR curriculum will continue to be a focus. And then beginning in phase 3, which would begin in September 2021, that would lead to that implementation of the official cut score that would be recommended by the standard setting committee, and then continued resources and supports. I'll pause there. I thought I saw a few hands up. They may be remaining hands up, but if folks want to put questions in the chat or come up with me to share. if there's any questions. All right. With that, then I will turn it back over to Mark.
I need to come back off mute. Thank you, Jessica. So the next piece we wanted to talk with you all about is related to ASEP and accreditation statuses. So there is an item for the SBAC agenda. As you might remember, if you've been following along, back in October 2020, the SBAC adopted rule provisions that would give all of the preparation programs the status of not rated declared state of disaster. And that the data for 2019-2020 would be report only. We sent out letters to preparation programs, kind of with that official notification back in November. And the action that the board will be taking around ASEP at this meeting that's coming up here, it will be approving that status of not rated declared state of disaster for all of our preparation programs. I wanted, again, kind of by way of thanking the folks who've done the work on here, just wanted to thank you for your continued partnership and insight as we, work on crafting accountability policy. Both the policy work that we've done specifically in this space related to COVID, helping us understand the state of the field, not only this group, but also other professional organizations of which you may be a part. We've really appreciated those conversations that we've gotten to have on really what's the state of the field and what have we done this year, what needs to be done. Also just wanted to name kind of working with this group about the insight and support and sort of conversations you've engaged with us to provide updates to the accountability system over the past 3 years. You may recall we've updated from a stair-step approach of cut scores that might have started at 75 and then upped every 5% every year. We've updated that with a steady, predictable performance metric that stays the same year over year. I think that was work that was in conversation with this group. We've also, we've improved our survey processes for roster validation, and we've shifted to an index system from that single cell system. So again, just really appreciated the conversations that have helped us make what I would think would be necessary updates to our accountability system and that related policy over the past 3 years. So I guess I do have one more question, and if you've had a chance to review the agenda, this won't be a surprise, but if you haven't, so we are taking the opportunity of the ASEP item where the board will be adopting accreditation statuses to open up that conversation that we've discussed with y'all about accountability for 2020-2021. We think, that we have, as we've discussed with the board and with y'all, we wanted to, we were going to give more time to happen throughout the kind of year to see what the status of things are. And I guess I would love, as we look towards engaging the board with the discussion in a couple of weeks, I wondered if folks in this group had perspective, now that our academic year is more than halfway done, what are some realities in the field that it might be important for the SBAC to consider as they discuss 2020-2021 accountability? So I think I'd love to just take, a few minutes and gather some insight from y'all around this.
Mark, I was interested in the publication the agency put out a couple weeks ago about the learning loss of K-12 students, in addition to the summer slide. And we're starting to observe some of the same things in our students, that even though we pivoted really fast and went to remote learning, we are seeing that our students are not as, I hate to say not as prepared, but they don't have the same level of engagement in K-12 schools that they typically have, but by the time they reach, the clinical teaching phase of their program. And so I am a little concerned with accountability this year, knowing that our students haven't gotten the level of preparation and training that is typical to receive from us. And so I don't know how that's going to impact, say, Texas exams. We're yet to see how that is going to shake out, and the number of attempts that they need to pass a test, or what is that going to look like on their performance as novice teachers. I think those are all things that are still yet to be seen. But as our students that have had a interruption in their training, if we will, are testing now, I am nervous about our accountability being based on a type of preparation that we are not used to providing, and is not typical of our program. So I think that would be something the board would want to consider.
I think that's useful. Yeah, thanks for kind of like bringing that lens to that.
Along the same lines, oh, I'm sorry. I try to raise my hand on here.
And I was taking notes and I didn't see whose hand was up. Since you're unmuted, Dr. Garcia, you want to go ahead?
Oh, yes, just real quick. It's along the same lines, but more specific to the students that are coming to us for formal admission and the impact that GPAs or lack of GPAs or weighted GPAs from high schools, and how that's going to translate into formal admission requirements that we need to have as EPPs. And then also obviously the ACT or SAT testing opportunities or limited testing opportunities, and college readiness, and all those standardized assessments, and what it's going to mean for us in terms of formal admission. I guess the commentary that I'd make is that there'd be flexibility, that as a program we would be able to identify some criteria or have some latitude in lieu of some of those scores that may not be in place. And so just some of the things that I've been thinking and we've been thinking about.
No, thank you for that. And I think, but I'll have to look. I think some of those admission requirements are captured in statute rather than being under jurisdiction of the ASEP. But I think that's useful for us to keep in mind. I think Dr. Galvan had your hand up. Maybe not. You're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. So that kind of ties in to what we've all been saying, because we are using a very different modality and don't have the traditional method of training and meeting and benchmarking. With STR, is the accountability immediately going to go into place? Is it with the pass fail? Because I realize you're not looking at a score, but if they pass or if they fail, does STR immediately go in with the accountability? Is there going to be a set percentage of 75%? Are we going to gradually go into STR? And have a certain criteria that we need to meet would be something I think merits reflection.
Okay. I think that kind of the rule as written is at the cert category level rather than the actual individual exam level. And so we're still working on the programming for this to figure out exactly how we're to best trace that back and make sure that it's targeted at that piece rather than at the exam level. Clearly the STR is an additional complexity on this. But I think that was, we'll have some, I think, recommendations for that as we continue to do development of this and see how that works out. Yep, go ahead.
Just one clarification to share. So during the introductory period, candidates will receive a score and a pass-fail as they traditionally would. So they will receive a full score report for the STR exam. During this introductory period, though, we've just set the cut score lower than we traditionally would. So as we've shared sort of in other spaces above that guessing line before we implement the official cut score. So candidates will receive a score report, will receive an overall pass-fail throughout these 8-month period, but it will not be in line with a panel recommended cut score that we're in the process of developing and will ultimately implement in September.
Thanks for that, Jessica, and for that additional clarification. Dr. Queen, I see you have your hand up. Thoughts about accountability system, things for the SPEC to keep in mind?
Yes, thank you. One of the concerns that I would have is we're hearing from several school districts in our area that schools are opting out or completing the waiver process to possibly not do teacher appraisals. So I think that if we have principals that are not observing our teachers, that makes it difficult to give an accurate picture on a principal survey as to how our teachers are actually performing in the classroom. And that also includes a virtual classroom.
So I have a quick follow-up on that. So one of the things that, we're thinking about, so last year the governor, waived the principal survey and we didn't distribute it. One of the things that we've been thinking about is essentially allowing principals to complete that survey so that we may still get some data, but letting the field know that we would not be engaging in any enforcement actions if they didn't fill it out. And of course, if we went down this road, the data would be report only and sort of stuff. So I think you're naming, that all principals, 100% across the board, may not have that insight this year. But do you think that, and I see that Dr. Ellis already sees where I'm going on this, do you think that there's still utility in making it an option, and to the extent that the data is available, getting it reported back to y'all?
I do. I think that there is value as a program. For me, I would like to see it report only, because I think that informs my program on how we might need to make some changes and adapt to a different style. But for report only, yes. Accountability makes me nervous.
I appreciate sort of like that additional insight that sort of underneath the, those additional waivers where they're waiving some of this teacher observation piece, there just may not be a good insight. And also on the data availability piece and sort of like that optional collection, we were planning on doing sort of the same. We were thinking about, and we'll engage the board with discussion about sort of the same approach on the teacher surveys, making that an option, getting that out to teachers as a collection, if they want to take the option, and then getting that data back to y'all to provide that perspective as well. What was those teachers' perspectives on their preparation? So I think that's kind of what we're planning on engaging the board with that discussion as well. Any other thoughts about this piece? I think that Donna, go ahead.
Hey, Mark, I would just like to add, observations, as we all know, have been a nightmare. And we have done our very best to see that as part of accountability. I would love to see the data to see how we've done. We have people in class, we have people virtually, we would have observations scheduled and then they were virtual. So our supervisors have been all over the place and trying to give the most effective feedback as possible. So I really would like to see the data on how we're doing, but to me that has been a giant concern. And then just also access to schools. some were able to go once a day, some were not able to go at all. So, our candidates are in schools, but we still haven't been able to see them. Some of them are virtual, and I know you fully understand that, but when we're thinking accountability, that really comes to mind for me.
No, I thank you. And of course, we do always plug, make sure to the extent that you are able to be doing these observations, you're reporting them into ECOS, and so that we are able to provide that data back in a rich way. But I think that definitely one of the things that we were planning on, engaging with the board around is that continued issues around access, and even just even where you do have access, the unpredictability, things change day to day, week to week. And so I appreciate you naming that. Anything else? Good. This is all really useful stuff for us to keep in mind as we open this discussion with the board. Anything less right now? Also, totally, I appreciate some comments in the chat, and want folks to feel free to go ahead and follow up as they wish. But I think this gives us a really good starting space, along with some other stuff, that we know around sort of like testing capacity and all of those pieces that allow us to bring a good range of perspectives to the board as we open up this conversation. So thank you for that. And also it's great because I've got the presentation open and somebody's taking notes. Is it Jessica? Jessica, are you taking notes?
I am. This
is great. Thank you. It's like in real time. I'm like handwriting notes over here and I see them showing up. It's fantastic. I really appreciate it. The next piece, we just wanted to provide just a brief overview of just a few other items on the SBEC agenda that may be of note or of interest to you all. The first one, the board will have the opportunity to approve the EPP Commendations. These are, based on data, and that fourth category is based on applications. There's these 4 categories, and these are further outlined, of course, in the item itself. EPPs can receive commendations in one or in multiple categories. So if they, had a first test pass rate of over 95%, and they had teachers, who were retained at 5 years at a high enough percent, they could get multiple commendations throughout. Just as a reminder, EPPs, preparation programs that are under sanctions, are not eligible. That was a rule update that we did make. And the SBEC committee on that innovative educator preparation piece, that will be kind of real time. The SBEC committee that has been focused in and doing those review of the application materials will provide recommendations to the full board. And that's all work that is still going to happen. So that'll be a short turnaround. But they'll be providing those recommendations as well, and all of these commendations then will be up for approval by the board. After the board approves them, we will post them to our website. We will also get certificates out for folks. And then also, I think we're trying to think about, I think we've been encouraged to think about from the board, how else to engage maybe with preparation programs that are receiving commendations, and how we might be able to, have some discussions around specific topics. We've been encouraged to, learn what we can from the field and try to connect preparation programs who are having success or who are doing a really great job and have been recognized as doing so by the board with others who may be reaching out to us at the agency and saying, hey, we're a little bit unsure about, we're having some issues in an area. We'd love a little bit of peer support. So we think that we might also be able to, engage in some thinking around that. Another item that will be up for the board is around the updated EPAC committee membership. I do have to say this was, a really great pool of nominations that came in. Just really an embarrassment of riches on this thing. We do have a proposed membership. It's got a rich variety of expertise following the direction that we got from the board. We've got a bunch of members recommended by organizations. like I said, we got 59 nomination forms received. We did, you may recall, there were 5 additional at-large seats specifically reserved for educator preparation programs. We got 13 nominations for those seats. Really happy not only to with the folks that we've got, but also, you know, if at any point folks need to step down or their position changes, I think we've got a really great now pool of applications that we could easily bring back to the preparation or to the SBEC and let them know. You know, we can bring forth additional folks. We also got 13 nominations for those teacher seats, which we think is very exciting. A little bit more educator voice, providing this perspective to the SBEC. And really, we are, the final list, I think, includes about 14 members that are currently at educator preparation programs. I do know that was one of the things that this group had engaged in discussion around. So we've got that piece there. And I think we're very excited about this diverse group for this to provide feedback to the SBEC on a whole range of issues. And we're also looking forward to using, as we discussed previously, that sort of like subcommittee focus group, additional working group structure to make sure that we are able to get deep dives on topics of interest. So just very excited about bringing forth this. I would, Jessica, do you want to speak to the EdTPA pilot agenda item?
Certainly. Thanks, Mark. So we have one rulemaking item related to the EdTPA pilot, and that is to bring to the board for their adoption the updated EdTPA pilot review date, which would be codified in rule as September 2022. And then we also have our standing EdTPA pilot update for the board. And in this meeting, as you'll see in the board book, we've shared some pilot feedback trends across stakeholders and have articulated next steps for both pilot program support and then broader statewide support as well. And then provide an update. We plan to provide the board with an update on the application process for the potential extension of the pilot for a 3rd year.
Those were the additional pieces on the SBEC agenda that we wanted to share and call out with y'all. And now we do just have a piece for other topics. I would ask maybe if Ryan's still on the call, I'd love to just make sure we're still here. I don't know if you wanted to speak at all, anything else, Ryan. I would just being grateful to the group, this group in particular, who's been providing great feedback to us and guidance kind of on a number of issues over the past couple of years.
Mark, I would just echo that. Did we have the rule thing? Is that after this? So we really appreciate this group and all the process improvements, and this is one encouragement for us to just give a little more on the landscape and the planning. And I think we have absolutely heard you on the January 1st implementation date, and that's one we have reflected on a whole lot and wish there was a different option on that. And I think, you know, to the extent that we have flexibility and we have control moving forward, it's something we're going to be very, very mindful of, the things that aren't within our control. But we just wanted to make sure we flag this moving forward, just so kind of the landscape of where we expect things to be moving forward on the horizon.
So this is the where we expect things to be, and then for folks' reference, the upcoming SBEC meeting dates, of course, throughout the course of the year. These are, again, set in conjunction with the SBOE meeting dates, but a great opportunity to mark your calendars now for the fun and excitement that will be the SBEC meetings in 2021.
All right, thank you all for joining us today. I just stepped all over Mark's toes, which is not the first time, but really appreciate everything. We'll hang out another couple of minutes here in case anybody has any other questions we should surface and discuss. And the next time EPAC convenes that we'll be convening with new membership reflective of the SBEC's direction. But you know, the team will definitely be happy to engage with anyone in any setting around the work that we do, and I really appreciate the mindset toward continuous improvement in the work. So thank you all for joining us today. Wish you a happy weekend and safety and health moving forward, and I hope that our paths cross again. Thanks so much.
Thanks.